Thank you very much for making a date on the marketplace. Welcome back. Now, cashew stakeholders are still lamenting the absence of regulatory body for the sector, as well as price fluctuations of cashew nuts. This comes in the wake of a new cashew season. Nesta Kafuya-Joma has been interacting with some players of the industry in the Tyne district of the Bonahaf region and has filed this report.
Cashew cultivation has become a very lucrative venture for many individuals within the Brongahaf region. Unfortunately, players in the cashew value chain seem not to be content with some developments within the sector. Chairman of the Tyne District Cashew Farmers Association, Joseph Alexander Bonsu, said, apart from a major challenge of bushfires affecting their farms, the union is unsatisfied with the pricing of the raw cashew nuts.
I remember last year, it started from 2 cedis up to 8 cedis, then it came down to 2 cedis. So, but some of the crops too, plants are early yielding. So, when that happens, those with early yielding plants will get a higher price.
A cashew farmer who also buys raw cashew nuts, Solomon Amayal, says industry players and government should be focusing attention on the raw cashew nuts and find ways of utilizing the fruits for the benefit of all.
We have to get a regulatory body that will regulate the industry so that farmers will be advised, because farmers have been grouped into cooperative institutions. Through the cooperative institution, when the Department of Cooperative is strengthened, then they can also channel the information to the farmers so that the farmers will know the importance of drying the cashew. But when you dry the cashew and get a good quality nut, then we can also increase the price.
Executives of the Tyne District Cashew Farmers Union have channeled their concerns to the District Chief Executive, Charity Jomo. He encouraged the union to help the assembly rake in enough revenue for the district. Nesta Kafuya-Joma's report for JoyNews.
And still staying in Agric, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture has introduced new traceable systems to monitor government's fertilizer subsidy program and smuggling of fertilizers. This new service requires every farmer who wants to benefit from the subsidy to be biometrically registered, while farmers who have already registered can have access to purchase the fertilizer. Agric Minister Dr. Uzo Akoto made this known at the launch of this year's Planting for Food and Jobs program. There's more in this report.
To ensure efficiency and minimize smuggling in the distribution of fertilizers to farmers, the Agric Ministry has rolled out new monitoring measures with the support of recruits of the Nation Builders Corps. Among these measures, fertilizers to be sold in the 3 northern regions will now be bagged in 25 kg branded bags.
So this is how it looks. So you can see that we will have this yellow band. All our subsidized inputs would have this yellow band. The PFJ insignia there, Planting for Food and Jobs. So that is going to be one mark. And then at the back, we will give you all the details about the guaranteed analysis, what it contains and so on, of the chemical composition. This is another way that we are introducing in order to reduce the smuggling.
The Agric Minister also noted that before any purchase is made, an agent at the retail shop will take fingerprints of the farmer and match it with the code on the back of the fertilizer.
But we are going to implement these in the field to ensure that not one bag leaves this country illegally. So those are the arrangements.
However, agriculture experts say there is a need for the government to increase farmer biometric registration exercises to cover about 2.5 million farmers, as well as expand the extension services to achieve higher yields this year.
The National Food and Buffer Stock Company has taken over 13 warehouses and commenced rehabilitation of 12 others in a bid to address post-harvest losses. The rehabilitation project, being undertaken by the Savannah Zone Agric Productivity Improvement Program, is expected to cost $1.4 million, and he stated this during a recent tour of the facility. CEO of the National Food and Buffer Stock Company, Abdul Hanan Wahab, noted these.
The tour was to do a validation of 13 facilities, which included 9 warehouses and 4 pack houses handed down by the Northern Rural Growth Program. It was also to inspect 12 warehouses marked for rehabilitation. The first point of call was a 2,000 metric ton warehouse facility in Zuarungu, marked for rehabilitation. Chief Executive Officer of the National Food and Buffer Stock Company, Abdul Hanan Wahab, tells Joy Business the purpose for the validation and rehabilitation is to help address post-harvest losses.
Because of the increasing production under the planting for food and jobs. We are foreseeing that when we are not able to have the adequate storage facility, to be very difficult. Another problem that we'll be facing as a result of bumper harvest from the plant for food and jobs will be storage. And ultimately, what we are supposed to do is to reduce post-harvest loss, but not to increase post-harvest loss.
Rehabilitation of the 12 warehouses is being undertaken by the Savannah Zone Agricultural Productivity Improvement Program, SAPIP. Lead engineer for the rehabilitation project, Bloomfield Atipo, says about $1.4 million is being earmarked for the rehabilitation works.
The project is funding the rehabilitation of the warehouses in collaboration with NAFCO. And we've earmarked 12 warehouses for rehabilitation, spread through the Upper East, Upper West, Volta region and Eastern region. What's happened is that we are interested also in converting some of the pack houses into seed centers under the same SAPIP project by a different component of SAPIP. Okay, but for the warehouses, each one of them we are looking at is 2,000 metric tons. So for the 12, that's 24,000.
In Pualungu, 1,000 metric ton pack house was handed over to the National Food and Buffer Stock Company.
Pualungu district, there's a lot of water here, and a lot of people produce a lot of fruits and vegetables. So that actually made us to site this facility here so that can motivate people to produce more and also get the private sector to come on board to buy from the farmers, store it here, pre-cool it here, and export it to the south or even abroad.
Other warehouses that were validated was a 1,000 metric ton facility in Bulsa South to support rice farmers and an 80 metric ton facility in Navrongo. For Joy Business, Sheila Tamaklu.
It's live on the marketplace. Let's turn away from Agric now. The country's total debt stock witnessed another significant increase in just 2 months ending November 2018 at 172.9 billion Ghana cedis. Data released by the Bank of Ghana showed that it went up by 3 billion cedis from September to November 2018. George Wiafe has more details on this and how other sectors of the economy fared, according to the Bank of Ghana.
173 billion Ghana cedis debt stock, according to the Bank of Ghana, is about 58% of the total value of the economy, which is believed to be about 300 billion Ghana cedis. For some economists, it is clear that the country is gradually moving away from that tag where it could be classified as high risk when it comes to settling its debts on time. The breakdown of the debt shows that 86.3 billion Ghana cedis were secured from outside the country, whilst 86.5 billion cedis were from local borrowings. On the banking sector, the data revealed some interesting developments. While the total percentage of loans that the banks fear would go bad was declining, credit to the private sector was going down, a development that could be described as not so good for the growth of businesses. On the economy, our earnings from export was also going up. It stood at $14.1 billion ending December 2018, while our import bill was going down, resulting in us making a savings of $2 billion when it comes to our balance of payments. The Bank of Ghana's dollar reserves ending December last year stood at a little over $7 billion. The central bank put the cedi's depreciation against the dollar for this year at a little over 2%.
All right, so we'll be taking a lot more, looking at a lot more details about this particular development. But before then, let's go to one of our top stories. The Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana has reduced its key lending rate to commercial banks. The committee reduced the policy rate by 100 basis points to 16%. This is the first time since March last year that the Bank of Ghana has reduced its policy rate for universal banks. The development is likely to influence the cost of credit in the country. According to the central bank, the move was influenced by a fairly stable outlook for the economy. Governor Dr. Ernest Addison was speaking at a news conference a while ago. My colleague George Wiafe was there. He's joined us on phone to give us more. George, good afternoon. Welcome to the marketplace.
Well, thank you very much, Wiafe.
All right, so what more can you tell us about this press conference?
So what I can tell you first, let's look at the monetary policy rate, which is a signal policy rate, as well as describe it as the rate at which the Bank of Ghana lends to commercial banks, or the basis for any credit engagement between the Bank of Ghana and their universal banks. So the governor gave out some reasons why they thought that going forward or for the next 3 months, if any bank should turn to the Bank of Ghana in terms of trying to work out any credits or lending, overnight lending, they are going to use the 16% as the base for actually extending any loan to that commercial bank. The governor argued that on the economy side, on the fiscal side, when it has to do with government operations, a lot of measures have been put in place. One could talk about the Financial Stability Council, the Fiscal Stability Council. All these measures, it's kind of an assurance that gives us an indication that government is committed in checking its expenditure. And therefore, if that assurance has been given from the fiscal side, then it's good to, again, reduce the cost a little bit so that would influence credit delivery in the country. The Bank of Ghana, or the governor, also argued that based on their completion of the banking sector cleanup that they have done, they believe that the sector is quite okay now for us to see that growth in credit to businesses. So why don't we use the policy rate as an indicator or a basis to, again, push for that reduction in the cost of credit? But if you want to look at the policy rate also as an indicative rate or an outlook rate, if the Bank of Ghana believes that the outlook for the economy is good, there are no threats to the economy and all the rest, then they want to kind of stimulate growth by credit expansion. And therefore, people would also want to look at that, just that move by the Bank of Ghana to, again, to say that, oh, if the Bank of Ghana is optimistic about the economy, then what about us? Then we could also go out and lend more to businesses out there. So you have to, those were the reasons why the Bank of Ghana actually reduced the rates by 100 basis points. The last time that we saw a reduction like this was in March last year, where they dropped it from the 20% to the 18%. That's about a 200 basis point reduction. You have to.
All right, now, George, the cedi crossed the dollar crossed the 5 cedi mark last week. Did the governor say anything about this?
Oh, yes, of course. And it was a very interesting debate at the news conference when the governor actually spoke on that one. Okay. Two things. I mean, there was a question asked about whether the time has come for us to have a fixed rate so that we know that for the next 6 months or for the next 3 months, this is the rate that we're going to use to actually work out the dollar. But the governor was didn't buy that argument. He believes that let's allow market forces to determine the rate so that if today the market forces are actually signaling a reduction, we do that. And therefore, he believes that as and when it matters, the Bank of Ghana will step in actually to help reduce the rate on the market if they have to pump in more Ghana cedis.
All right, many thanks for your time, George. We will expect some more details when you come back to the office. My colleague George Riafe bringing us up to speed with the current policy rates at 16% fixed by the Monetary Policy Committee a while ago. Let's get on the phone lines again and speak with an expert economist, John Gachi, to know the implications of the current debt situation. Mr. Gachi, you're welcome to the marketplace.
Thank you.
All right, so the country's debt situation has now crossed the 170 billion mark. It's now 172.9 billion Ghana cedis. Now, is there any cause of worry by this particular development?
Well, I think the same worry that we have been entertaining is still active now. It's still active because we need to match our level of debt with the level of assets that debt has created for the country. If I'm talking about assets, I'm talking about programs and infrastructure development that have been financed by the debt. If that is not acceptable, then the level of the debt is also not acceptable. And as we can see, it is very difficult to align effectively with very clear projects and programs that have been financed with the debt. And that is where the problem is. And it's also an indication that the kind of discussion we had in the past, that when we have our level of debt hitting a very high level, there is a need to be concerned, has become very, very clear and very important at this point in time. Because within 2 years, we've been able to borrow in excess of about 50 billion. And we should be able to match this level of debt with very clear programs and projects that are being financed.
Well said, but some experts also believe that the rate at which we service our debts has improved, so there's no serious source of concern here. What's your take on this?
Well, I think there is concern because we borrow more to service our debt. And what it does is that when you look at our capital expenditure to GDP, you realize that it is far, far lower when you compare it to our debt servicing cost to GDP. And what it means is that all the revenue you are generating, you are using a greater portion to service your current, the maturing debt, and your investment in the future, the investment in programs and investment in infrastructure is weak. While you need infrastructure in finance to protect and to provide the space for the economy to expand more in the future. So that is the risk of what is happening. So the fact that we are servicing our debt does not mean that we do not stand the risk of managing the economy. We need to look at the risk that we stand.
All right. Now, away from that, the Bank of Ghana's Monetary Policy Committee today reduced the policy rate to 16% from 17%. Is it any good news? Would it impact positively, so to speak, on businesses?
Well, I think the market will not react in any way because we have reduced the policy rate from 26% to 17%. We couldn't record any much gain. So reducing from 17% to 16%, I do not think that there is going to be any extraordinary development in the market.
Even after the banking sector reforms have taken place, you don't think it will impact?
I didn't get that point.
Even after we have seen a banking sector reforms, which we have, recently.
The banking sector reforms have gotten to another phase, which we need to pay attention to. The number of banks which are safe and the number of banks which are considered not to be safe and have been consolidated are facing some challenge in terms of liquidity. Those are the things we should focus on. In fact, most people who are leaning towards those banks are having difficulty in terms of access to credit for their economic activity. And unless we restore a vibrant liquidity situation for those entities, we may not achieve what is expected in the overall reform process. So I think we need to look at that. We shouldn't be happy just because some banks have used their book a transaction to get minimum capital and that is the end. No, we need to do a lot more to make the banking sector more robust, more responsive and sound in contributing to proper economic financial intermediation.
All right, many thanks for your time. Professor John Gachi is an economist with the University of Cape Coast. Now, away from that, Managing Director of Oil Exploration and Production Company, Tullow Ghana, Kweku Awotri, has renewed calls on the government to provide SMEs with access to credit to support their businesses. According to him, the government should do more by way of providing a stable macro economy for these businesses to thrive. He spoke to Joy Business at the second edition of the Invest in Africa SME Excellence Awards.
Invest in Africa IIA SME Excellence Awards have been developed to honor local businesses which have put up enviable potential to scale up and participate in supply chains of larger organizations both in Ghana and abroad. A wholly owned Ghanaian fuel retailing company, IDEC Holdings Limited, received the Star Award for Excellence, the ultimate award, at the second edition of the ceremony. In an interview with Joy Business, Accounts and Finance Manager at IDEC, Hector Tayele Awana urged budding entrepreneurs to adhere to standards.
We even invite some of the regulators to come and see whether we are on course. Tax authorities, we are fine with them. We do business with exactitude. Because of that, we are always comfortable. We go home and sleep, we don't have any problem. When you are competing, doesn't mean you should do the wrong thing. Just do the right thing and compete genuinely, and you never have problem. If you are doing the wrong things to compete, you will never be sustainable.
Managing Director of Tullow Ghana Limited, Kweku Awotri, in his keynote address, expressed his outfit's commitment to long-term development through local content participation.
We ensure that local content has a significant input and influence in our procurement processes. And we currently have 75% of our contracts on our procurement plan earmarked for indigenous companies and joint ventures between indigenous companies and foreign companies who can transfer knowledge, skill, experience, and technology to their indigenous partners and also support them to build financial strength.
On his part, Country Director of IIA Ghana, Clarence Nati, touted some key milestones his outfit celebrated as part of its.
And on that note, we wrap up this afternoon's edition of the Marketplace. Thanks so much for watching. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. Have a good afternoon.